You were born into a game you didn't choose, a game whose rules were written before you ever opened your eyes. Before you learned your name, before you knew the taste of victory or the sting of betrayal, the game had already begun. And the tragedy, most people never realize they're playing. They think they're living, but they're just reacting to programming, to patterns, to invisible scripts handed down from generations of fear, shame, duty, and silence. Life is a game, but not one of luck. It's a game of inner mastery. And if you don't learn how to play it, it will play you over and over again, until you forget that you were ever a player at all. Because the enemy isn't out there, it's within. It's the part of you that whispers, this is just the way it is. The part that clings to comfort disguised as character. The part that waits for permission to be powerful. But the moment you wake up to the illusion, when you realize the board, the rules, even the other players were all designed to distract you from your own sovereignty, that's the moment everything changes. You see, they teach you how to obey, but never how to observe. They show you how to comply, but not how to see. And this game? It's rigged not against you, but against your awareness. Because an awakened player is the most dangerous force in existence. Psyphoria. There's a moment that comes before transformation, a kind of psychological vertigo, where everything familiar starts to disintegrate, not because life is falling apart, but because you are waking up. This is psyphoria, the euphoria of psychological awakening, mixed with the terror of no longer being who you were. Most people run from this threshold. They turn back, because when your identity starts to crumble, the mind panics. It screams, if I'm not who I thought I was, then who am I? That's the first layer of the game. You were taught to fear death. But the death that liberates you doesn't happen in your body, it happens in your mind. It's the death of the mask, the death of the obedient self, the death of every belief you inherited but never questioned. And in that death, you start to see your job is not to cling to what's crumbling. Your job is to let it burn, because the self that emerges from that fire, that's not the puppet, that's the player. Mindset. Every game is first won in the mind. What you believe about yourself creates your ceiling and your prison. And most ceilings are made of fear that doesn't even belong to you. They told you to be realistic, but realism is just the camouflage of the defeated. What they meant was, stay small, stay predictable, stay manageable. But the mind, when claimed, cleansed, and commanded, is the most dangerous weapon in the world. You don't need a new life, you need a new lens. Your reality is just a projection of your unconscious beliefs. So if you want to change your life, you don't hustle harder, you upgrade your internal operating system. Why do you think systems of power pour billions into keeping you distracted, into feeding your mind with fear, with division, with images of perfection you'll never reach? Because an unfocused mind is a controllable mind. But a focused mind, that's revolution. You don't rise by force. You rise by frequency. And your frequency is determined by the thoughts you refuse to entertain anymore. Belief. You want to hack the game? Here's your first cheat code. Belief is the foundation of all power. Not belief in religion, not belief in institutions, but belief in your own godlike ability to shape meaning, reality, and direction. The world reflects not what you deserve, but what you believe. A child doesn't ask permission to imagine. They don't hesitate to become a dragon, a hero, a storm. That's because belief is natural, doubt is taught. You weren't born skeptical. You were trained to be. And that's the design, because someone who deeply believes in their own voice, in their worth, in their path, in their vision, is immune to control. This is why the game is played in silence. Not in what they say, but in what they make you say to yourself. I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. I'll wait until it's perfect. Those are not your thoughts. Those are viruses embedded into your mind through repetition and reward. The hack: interrogate every belief that doesn't liberate you. If it doesn't make you more alive, it's a lie. Clarity. In a world designed to overwhelm, clarity is rebellion. Clarity is power, not because it gives you control, but because it gives you choice. And here's the truth no one wants to hear. Most people avoid clarity because it forces a decision. Because once you see clearly, you can no longer pretend you don't know. And with knowing comes responsibility. Responsibility to act, to change, to rise. The fog is not accidental. It's designed. Constant noise, constant outrage, constant consumption, not because it's necessary, but because it keeps you spinning. Confused people stay stuck. Confused people don't revolt. But when you strip it all back, when you silence the noise and ask yourself, what am I really here to do? The answer scares you, because it's too big, too beautiful, too true. And once you know it, the only real fear left is wasting it. So, get clear. Not with another journal, another guru, another dopamine hit dressed as purpose. Get clear by sitting in the silence until your soul speaks. And when it does, listen. Vision. Vision is not what you see with your eyes. It's what you refuse to stop seeing with your heart. Most people don't fail from lack of efforts. They fail from lack of vision. Because vision gives pain a purpose. It makes suffering sacred. It turns struggle into initiation. You will never rise higher than the vision you hold. Not the vision someone handed you. Not the one you copied from a podcast. The one that was coded into your soul before you were even born. And you'll know it's yours because it won't let you sleep. It will haunt you when you settle. It will whisper through your burnout. It will scream through your mediocrity. This is the vision the world is terrified of. Because when a man or woman walks with that kind of vision, they no longer ask for directions. They become the map. Discipline. You think the game is about passion? It's not. Passion burns. Discipline builds. Discipline is the architecture of the soul. It is the structure that holds the weight of greatness when motivation collapses. And it will collapse. Because motivation is a mood. Discipline is a decision. Every kingdom you admire was built brick by brick, not in moments of inspiration, but in moments of relentless, unseen consistency. And the reason most people never win this game, because they worship their emotions. They think, if I don't feel like it, I can't do it. But the awakened player knows, if I only act when I feel like it, I'll never feel what it's like to become who I was meant to be. Discipline is the sacred violence of choosing what serves you over what soothes you. The alarm clock, the reps, the boundaries, the silence, the sacrifice. This is not suffering, this is initiation. You don't need to love it. You need to honor it. Because every time you choose discipline, you tell the world, I am not here to be a pawn. I am here to become the master. Action. You want to shift your fate? Move. Not tomorrow. Not when you're ready. Not after they validate you. No. Because clarity without action is delusion. Vision without execution is a hallucination. And potential without movement is just elegant regret. The mind will trick you. It will create infinite mirrors of almost ready. But the body knows, the soul knows. You were not designed to live in theory. You were designed to embody the truth. Every time you act in alignment with your deeper self, you reclaim territory from the false self. The self that wants to delay. The self that wants to please. The self that wants to stay invisible and call it humble. Action is sacred. Not just the grand gestures, the small ones, the daily ones, the ones no one sees, because those become who you are. And who you are in action is the most undeniable form of truth. You can't think your way into greatness. You walk into it. With trembling hands, with shaking voice, with fire in your chest and doubt in your ears. But still, you move. Gratitude is not a mood. It's a frequency. A state of war against entitlement, against scarcity, against victimhood. In the game of life, gratitude is the anchor. Because when you're thankful, not performatively, but from the bone, you stop grasping and start receiving. The system trains you to want more, endlessly, more attention, more speed, more status. But when you pause to honor what already is, the spell breaks. Because nothing new can come to a mind that curses its current state. Gratitude is not weakness, it's not passivity, it's the warrior's shield. It says, I'm grounded, I'm clear, I remember how far I've come. It's the weapon that makes even the hardest moments meaningful. Because when you bless your pain, it blesses you back as wisdom. Gratitude is the hack that makes even loss a gift, even endings holy. Adaptability. The most dangerous player in the game isn't the strongest. It's the one who shifts, who sees the storm and sails through it. You think strength is rigidity? No. Rigidity breaks. Power bends. Adaptability is the intelligence of the soul in motion. It's the art of letting go faster than you're being forced to. It's surrender without submission, change without identity, collapse. The ego fears adaptability. It wants everything defined, fixed, secure. But the game has no pause button. And clinging to what no longer serves you is a form of spiritual decay. To evolve, you must adapt, not react. Reacting is reflex. Adapting is response. Strategic, conscious, aligned. You don't need the map to change. You need to become the compass. That's how you stay unshaken, not by resisting the world, but by becoming so fluid, so aware that no shift can ever knock you off your path. Resilience. There is no success without suffering, no strength without scars, no power without pressure. Resilience isn't bouncing back. It's rising differently. It's not that the pain didn't hit you, it's that it forged you. It rearranged your priorities. It purified your circle. It made your yes sacred and your no unquestionable. Resilience isn't toughness. It's presence. It's waking up in a life you didn't choose, but deciding today, again, relentlessly, to build the one you deserve. Because in this game, it's not about who gets hit the least. It's about who builds meaning from the hit. Resilience is not a trait you're born with. It's a muscle forged by heartbreak, refined by rejection, and carved by time. And the moment you stop resenting the pain is the moment you start using it. Learning. In the ancient game of becoming, the most dangerous illusion is thinking you know enough. The ego wants finality. The soul wants expansion. Learning is the ritual of those who've accepted they are both divine and unfinished. It's the art of dissolving so that you can reform over and over again. True learning is not memorization, it's mutation. It doesn't just add to you, it alters you. And the real learning, it doesn't happen in comfort, it happens in contradiction. In the books you disagree with, in the feedback that hurts, in the silence after failure, where your next identity is being forged. Learning is a sacred invitation to become new. And if you're not learning, you're not living, you're just repeating. Don't worship what you already know. Use it, sharpen it, challenge it. Because the game isn't to be the smartest in the room, it's to be the most evolved. Destiny, there is no fate, only frequency. Destiny is not written in the stars, it's etched into the choices you make when no one is watching. It's not something that finds you, it's something you build, day by day, choice by choice, death by death. The death of excuses, the death of waiting, the death of the former self. Because the truth is, you're not discovering your destiny, you're remembering it. It was always there, beneath the trauma, beneath the noise, beneath the scripts and labels and masks. It was the whisper in your childhood dreams, the fire you felt when you saw someone doing what you were born to do. But the game taught you to forget, to chase applause, to blend in, to betray the truth in your gut in exchange for comfort, for belonging, for silence. Yet even in your forgetting, your destiny never left you. It waited. In the background, in the breakdown, in the betrayal that cracked your armor just enough for the light to get in. Because pain is the messenger and longing is the compass. Destiny doesn't shout, it pulls. And when you follow it, not only do you change your life, you fracture the illusion for everyone watching. That's how you become legendary. Sovereignty. Sovereignty is not about being above others. It's about never being below yourself again. It's a state of inner monarchy, where your decisions are no longer crowdsourced, where your worth is no longer on the auction block of opinion, where your energy is no longer drained, trying to explain your evolution to those committed to misunderstanding it. Sovereignty is the end of spiritual outsourcing. You stop asking, what should I do? You start declaring, this is who I am. It's the internal empire where you no longer negotiate with your intuition, no longer trade power for validation, no longer accept crumbs and call it enough. You become whole, not flawless, whole. That means you can see your darkness and not flinch, own your chaos and not collapse, stand alone and still feel complete. Because sovereignty is not given, it's taken. Not from others, from the illusions that said you needed permission to rise. The most terrifying thing in this world is not a man with a title. It's a human who no longer needs to be told who they are. Self-trust. There's a voice inside you that has never lied, but you've spent years ignoring it. You let logic override it. Let fear silence it. Let consensus dilute it until one day it felt foreign. Like someone else's voice, timid, unsure, distant. But it's still there, beneath the shoulds, beneath the shame, beneath the scripts of survival. Self-trust is the revolution, the jailbreak, the return. Because once you trust yourself, not your impulses, not your ego, but the core knowing within you, you become unstoppable. It's not that the path gets easier, it's that the doubt dies. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You don't need certainty. You don't need proof before the leap. You are the proof. Every time you made it through what should have broken you. Every time you rebuilt with nothing but will. Every time you rose without applause. That is the evidence. Self-trust is not arrogance, it's remembrance. It's the sacred pact that says, no matter what happens, I will not abandon myself again. Legacy. You were never meant to survive and disappear. You were meant to disrupt, to enter this world as a whisper and leave it as a roar. Not for fame, not for ego, but for the echo. Because legacy is not what they write about you. It's what moves through them because of you. It's the permission you give others when you live fully, the courage you ignite when you speak truth, the map you leave behind when you walk your path, unedited, unfiltered, unapologetic. The game ends for everyone. But most people don't realize they were playing until the final screen fades. Don't be that person. Don't wait for death to remember you were born to live. Legacy is the final hack, the ultimate code. Because when you live as if your breath matters, every moment becomes holy. You stop existing. You begin imprinting, not to be remembered, but to be felt. And that feeling, that ripple, that's how you win. Conclusion. So now you know. Life is a game, and it's rigged not against you, but for your awakening. You were born not to obey, but to see. not to conform, but to create, not to survive, but to remember who the hell you are. You are not a pawn. You are not a piece. You are the player. And every thought, every action, every breath is your move. So move, not like you're afraid, not like you're unsure. Move like a sovereign being who finally understands the game was never about winning. It was about waking up. And now that you're awake, play. Obedience is not always enforced with chains. Sometimes it's handed to you dressed as comfort. You weren't born afraid to speak. You weren't born afraid to choose. You weren't born to ask for permission. You were taught to. They taught you that compliance is virtue. They trained you to fear rejection more than regret. They gave you rewards for being agreeable, not for being awake. And so you learned. You learned to lower your eyes instead of raise your voice. You learned to smile when something felt wrong. You learned to follow rules that no one ever explained, only enforced. Not with force, but with silence, with exclusion, with the unspoken threat that if you step too far outside, you will be labeled, dismissed, erased. That's how it begins. Not with violence, but with slow erosion. Not with war, but with whispers. Society doesn't need prisons when it can train you to fear your own freedom. It doesn't need walls when it can convince you that obedience is love, that submission is peace, that being good means never questioning what good even means. This is how obedience is manufactured. They give you a script. Be polite. Be quiet. Be normal. Get a job. Chase status. Don't ask too many questions. Don't rock the boat. Don't outgrow the system that raised you. Because if you do, you will scare them. And if you scare them, they will try to shrink you. You'll be told you're arrogant. You're too much. You're ungrateful. You're rebellious. You're dangerous. Not because you are, but because you remembered that your life belongs to you. Syphoria, the intoxication of collective illusion. You feel it every time you scroll, every time you buy what you don't need, every time you smile while suffocating. You are surrounded by noise, but starving for truth, plugged into everything, yet deeply disconnected from yourself, entertained but never empowered. That is the cost of unexamined obedience. They don't want thinkers. They want followers. They don't want strength. They want stability, their kind of stability. Stability built on your conformity. The illusion of freedom is more effective than the threat of force. So they let you speak as long as it's safe. They let you vote as long as the options are the same. They let you dream as long as your dream fits inside their economy. You are free to be anything as long as it doesn't threaten the design. And here's the darkest part. They train you to police yourself. You censor your voice before anyone else does. You shrink your ambition before anyone critiques it. You mute your instincts before they become inconvenient. Because somewhere inside, you've internalized the idea that compliance equals survival. And in many ways it did. As a child, you learned that pleasing others meant safety, that quietness kept the peace, that being good meant being invisible. But you are no longer a child, and yet you still kneel like one to systems, to structures, to expectations that were never built for your freedom. Mindset is the battleground, and belief is the weapon. If they can control what you believe about yourself, they never have to control your actions, because you'll do it for them. You'll believe your value is in your productivity. You believe rest is laziness. You believe that your worth must be proven daily in achievements, in income, in obedience. You will believe that the cage is your home. that the leash is a necklace. That burnout is noble. That burnout is success. But belief is not truth. Belief is programming. And you have the right to rewrite it. Clarity is rebellion. To see the invisible bars, to name the manipulation, to realize that normal is not natural, it's designed. You are not broken because you don't fit this world. This world is broken because it was never built to fit you. It was built to keep you busy, distracted, divided, exhausted, because a tired mind doesn't question. A distracted soul doesn't rebel. A divided people are easier to control. That is the design to keep you obedient without you ever noticing you've been trained. Vision is how you break it. To dream outside their blueprint. To imagine without permission. To want more than you're allowed to say out loud. And yes, it will cost you. Clarity always does. You will lose comfort. You will lose approval. You will lose the illusion of belonging. But what you gain? You gain yourself. You gain your spine, your soul, your sovereignty. And you gain the unshakable knowing that you are not a machine. You are not a servant. You are not a pawn. You are a creator, a force, a being designed to expand, not obey. Purpose is what pulls you out. Not the purpose they gave you, not status, not titles, not applause. The true purpose, the kind that wakes you in the middle of the night, the kind that stirs something ancient in your bones, the kind that doesn't need validation because it is validation. When you reconnect to that purpose, the spell begins to break. You stop asking for instructions. You stop waiting for signs. You stop delaying your destiny. Because finally, you remember you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to wake up. And waking up isn't gentle. It's not some peaceful sunrise through linen curtains. It's a rupture, a collapse, a shaking loose of everything you once called truth. You'll see it in your career. The ladder you've been climbing leans against a wall you don't even believe in. You'll see it in your relationships, the people you surround yourself with love, your silence more than your soul. You'll see it in your routines, the rituals that were supposed to bring meaning now feel like cages you willingly walk into every morning. Because awakening is not the adding of new truths, it's the death of old illusions. And society, it thrives on illusion. It thrives on your forgetfulness. It thrives on the hope that you will never question the map, only keep walking the path. Discipline becomes your revolution. Not discipline for approval. Not the kind that earns praise from the system. The kind that builds inner fortitude. Discipline of thought. Discipline of boundaries. Discipline to walk alone when the herd demands your silence. Because obedience loves company. But freedom? Freedom often walks alone. You will have to face yourself without the noise. You will have to sit in the echo of your own voice and ask, do I even know who I am when I'm not performing? That question is terrifying, but it's also sacred. Because in that question, in that pause, you meet the real you. The one buried under 1,000 layers of expectation, programming, fear. And when you meet that version, you will realize why they taught you to fear solitude. Because solitude reconnects you to source, to intuition, to instinct, to something they cannot monetize or measure or mold. Action becomes your uprising, not loud, dramatic, chaotic action, but precise, intentional, unshakable action. The kind that doesn't wait for applause. The kind that doesn't need an audience. The kind that doesn't ask if it's allowed. You stop chasing permission and start being permission. Your life becomes the message. Your alignment becomes the protest. Your peace becomes the threat. Because nothing is more terrifying to a control-based system than a soul that no longer fears losing it. They lose their grip when you no longer need their reward. They lose their hold when your truth is louder than their noise. They lose their power the moment you stand up and say, I see you, and I choose me. Gratitude becomes your armor. Not passive gratitude, not the kind that says, I'll stay because at least I have something. But the kind that says, I am thankful for what I have, but I will not shrink to keep it. Gratitude for the clarity. Gratitude for the shake-up. Gratitude for the heartbreak that woke you up. Because every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every rejection cleared space for truth. Every disappointment peeled away the parts of you that were never real to begin with. And that kind of gratitude is not sweet. It's fierce. It's liberating. It reminds you that loss isn't punishment. It's pruning. You're not being cut down. You're being carved into something truer. Adaptability becomes your secret weapon. Not the kind of adaptability they trained into you where you bend for approval, but the kind that bends reality. You stop adapting to fit society. You start adapting society to fit your soul. You create, you question, you build systems that honor life, not profit. You become dangerous because you're no longer predictable. You're no longer programmable. You are no longer one of them. You are something else now. You are awake. And there is nothing more terrifying to a dying system than someone who can see through it and still walk with love, still speak with clarity, still move with purpose, still build while others obey. Resilience becomes your foundation because they will try to pull you back, not always with force, often with guilt, with you've changed, with you're so difficult now, with why can't you just be normal again? They will shame your transformation because it reminds them of their stagnation. Do not return to who you were. That version of you was surviving. This version, this one, is living. And it will hurt because rebirth always does. It will stretch you, break you, force you to choose solitude over sedation, truth over tradition, sovereignty over comfort. But on the other side of that pain is something you've never tasted before. Yourself, unfiltered, unowned, unshackled. You will become a living contradiction, silent but thunderous, grounded but untamed, compassionate but no longer compliant. You will walk through the same cities, past the same people, through the same conversations, and feel like a stranger because you no longer belong to the machine. You belong to the moment. And the moment you belong to yourself again, everything changes. Your energy no longer leaks. Your time no longer bleeds. Your life no longer bends to invisible masters. You become the architect of your thoughts, your path, your entire existence. And here is the final truth. You were never truly obedient. You were just afraid. Afraid to lose approval. Afraid to be seen. Afraid to stand alone. But fear is not a life strategy. It is a warning system, a teacher, a gatekeeper. And the moment you walk through it, really walk through it, you realize the only thing that ever kept you caged was the belief that you needed one. You are not here to obey. You are here to transform. So transform fully, fiercely, finally. Because once you transform, you become irreversible. You don't go back to the old table just because there's a seat. You don't crawl back into roles that require your silence. You don't dim the fire. You had to walk through hell to ignite. You see with different eyes now. eyes that recognize conditioning, that decode manipulation, that spot the disguise of safety that's really just sedation. You speak in a new language, one that honors truth over comfort, depth over distraction, liberation over illusion. And suddenly, you're untouchable. Not because you're invincible, but because you're indivisible. The world can't fracture you anymore. The crowd can't drown you. Their opinions can't define you. You are no longer a fragment playing pretend in a house built on fear. You are whole. You are aware. You are dangerous in the most beautiful way. You don't follow the script anymore because you realized the script was never yours. It was handed to you by the culture, by institutions, by frightened people who learned obedience the hard way and passed it down like an heirloom. But you're here to break that lineage. You're not here to inherit trauma. You're here to interrupt it. You're not here to continue the tradition of self-sacrifice for acceptance. You're here to end it. Let them call you the black sheep. Let them say you lost your way. Because in truth, you found something far greater than their approval. You found yourself, the one who doesn't need to perform, the one who doesn't wait for cues, the one who doesn't ask, is it okay to be me now? You are done asking. You are done hoping, done shrinking, done playing by rules that were never designed to lead you to freedom. You don't need to be led anymore. You remember the compass inside your chest, and it points inward, always inward, to the sacred territory no system can colonize. Learning becomes your revolution now. Not academic learning, not regurgitated facts to please a system, but the kind of learning that rewires your existence. You start unlearning everything they told you was true. About power, about success, about love, about worth. You realize success isn't hierarchy, it's harmony. Love isn't sacrifice, it's sovereignty. Worth isn't earned, it's remembered. This is the education you were never given, the curriculum of awakening. And once you begin, you never stop. Every conversation becomes a test. Every room, a mirror. Every moment, a choice. Obedience or authenticity, silence or soul. You no longer fear the question. You welcome it, because your life now is a practice of conscious rebellion, not against people, but against the unconsciousness that numbed you for years. You become a beacon, not by force, but by resonance. You walk into a room, and those still asleep feel the discomfort of your presence, because something in you reminds them of the freedom they buried. They will call you too much, too intense, too focused, too free. Wear it like armor. Because if your freedom doesn't disturb the obedient, it's not real freedom. You weren't made to blend in. You weren't made to dilute. You were made to disturb the silence, to speak what others suppress, to build what others only dream of, to become what they said was impossible. A soul fully awake in a world designed to keep you asleep. So here you are, standing at the edge of everything they told you to fear, and realizing it was never about fear. It was about control, but not anymore. From this moment forward, you live untethered, unhooked from the matrix of mental manipulation, unwilling to trade your fire for their formula. You see through the veil, and still you rise, still you love, still you build, still you breathe deeper than ever before, because nothing is more sacred than this. A mind you own, a heart that isn't edited, a spirit that bows to no one. This isn't rebellion. This is remembrance. This is what it means to be free. Finally, fully, forever.